Hello, welcome back to another Elevation Association Experience podcast. We are your hosts, Dr. Jared Hill, Dr. Dan Nelson. Jared, whew, dude, you're looking pretty lean. What's going on over there?
Hey, just working out a little bit on occasion, trying to eat right, just trying to get ready for the summer. That's how it rolls with me.
Sure. Summer, right. How you going to kick off the summer?
Yeah, I may get up on stage, do a little bodybuilding. I don't know for sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the next couple of
You
weeks.
might do it. Isn't it next week?
2 weeks. 2 weeks I
2
got.
weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a great way to get in shape for the year and to get in gear. Otherwise, I don't know that I would work as hard as I do. So, but it's when you know you're going to have to get up and have your body judged by people, you tend to work harder and get in good shape. So it's good for me, but yeah.
they're judging you anyway, Jared, so you might as well get in shape, right?
Right. Right. That's exactly my thought.
All right. Well, today, you guys, we're going to talk about something that is pretty fundamental, but I think that we have a tendency to miss it not only in life but in just all the time at work. And it's this concept of getting to the real issue, right? Like, oh my gosh, anybody that's had teenagers, just have kids, period, but like has dealt with this, or even in marriage, we deal with it quite a bit, right? And um, kind of want to kick off with a why this was where the inspiration for this episode came from. So it was last week. So my son, I have a 19-year-old son who's serving a religious mission in the Dominican Republic, and he we were talking to him on via Zoom, and he's serving with a guy that they don't get along. And this happens all the time. You get assigned someone to serve with, and you don't get to pick who they are, and so it's not abnormal to have some personality conflict there. And he and this kid have a lot, and he's like, "Dad, we just argue all the time." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what's the problem?" And he's like, "He doesn't listen." And I'm like, "Okay, where have I heard this before?" And so I got inside, was laughing, and I'm like, "All right." I was like, "Okay, so tell me what happens. Why do you think that the issue is that he doesn't listen?" He's like, "Well, we'll go plan something to do, and he'll be like, 'Yeah, I don't want to do that.' And then I shoot down everything that he opposes with all his rationale for like why we shouldn't be doing it. And I have a rational, good, comeback for all of his reasons for not wanting to do something." And so I was like, "Okay, so you shoot down everything that he brings up, and you think that your arguments should make him change his mind." He's like, "Yeah, they make sense that he can't come back. He just finally just says, 'I don't know. I don't care. I don't know.'" And he'll just shut down. He stops listening. He won't talk to me. And I said, "Well, dude, what do you think the real problem is here?" And he's like, "He won't listen." And I'm like, "Do you think that that's the real problem, is that he won't listen?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so we started breaking it down. And I said, "Do you think that maybe the issue is that he just finally is tired of like, getting locked into a debate and argument over everything that you disagree with? And so he just shuts down and is like, 'I don't know.'" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't think about it like that." And so we got deeper into it and started, as you can see where the direction goes for, anyone that's had this type of experience with their kids or, in leadership knows that you have to drill down and get to the real issue. And so we were able to do that. And it was hilarious because he was like over the moon pumped. He's like, "Oh, I didn't even think about it like that." But it was such a good example of like, when you get to the real issue, the aha, when the light bulb went off over his head, and he was, instead of being mad or frustrated with himself, he was talking about how he felt a sense of almost relief in understanding the situation rather than, where he was at, which was just locked in conflict. Right. And so I think that we get stuck in those situations, man, all the time, because we don't take the time to get to the real issue. We we're really good at, especially, that irony there, and we've talked about this in the past, Jared, is that we as clinicians are really good at diagnosing a patient with a physical problem, right? But sometimes within our teams, maybe it's a bandwidth issue, maybe it's our personality, maybe it's just that day or whatever. But we're not always really great at getting to the core problem or the core issue of something.
Yeah, last week we had our outfitters course, and we taught a part of that course is to go over the meeting sequence that you have on a weekly basis with your leadership team, and a huge part, the majority part of that meeting, the time set aside of that meeting is to solve issues. So we went over, spent quite a bit of time on how to solve an issue because the worst thing you can do is spend time solving the wrong issue. So, and very rarely, very rarely is the first time something's brought up, very rarely is that the actual issue. And so this is
Such a good point.
oftentimes like in your like in a dental office, your assistant will come up and say, "Oh, so and so called, and the crown is off, and we just did it last week, and here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna solve this problem. Here's how we're gonna do it." And they come in, and it's not even the crown you did. You spent a lot of time and effort and emotion, energy solving an issue that's not an issue. And I went through this a lot as a young practitioner, and finally, even when the emergencies come in, and the assistant or somebody tells me this is what's going on, I often be like, okay, well, we'll just wait and see. We'll see what the actual issue is because whether it's in like your as you're reviewing your numbers and you say, oh, our case acceptance is low. Well, we obviously we need better scripting. We had this exact scenario, Dan, in our leadership team meeting, what, 2 weeks ago, where our case acceptance was low. And our treatment coordinator is like, "Well, our team doesn't believe in with the treatment that we're doing. This is what we need to do for them." And we started to dive into this problem and to solve it. And we're like, "Wait a minute, let's take a step back. Is that really the issue, or is this kind of our go-to solution, or the typical dental go-to solution for fixing this one issue?" So it'll be fun today to dive into some of these issues, learn how to diagnose and really dive deeper into the issue. It's kind of like with that opening scene of Shrek, or not opening scene, kind of middle of the scene where he's walking through the field with Donkey, and he's trying to explain what an ogre is like, because ogres are like issues. And he's like, comes with all these things, and finally Shrek like, no, ogres are like onions. Like you have layers, right? And you can think of an issue like an onion, right? It's got layers. You got to peel back the outer layer, which is never the part you want to eat anyways, and then get down deeper, and it might be the second or the third or the fourth or fifth layer, and it takes time and effort to learn how to dive deep into that issue. And so I'm excited to get into that today and talk about that more.
Yeah, I think for those who haven't had an opportunity to interact with Jared or work with him, he really is a master of this idea of getting to the real issue. I've watched him do it. He has an feature that cracks me up. I don't know if anybody's seen that Saturday Night Live skit about the Alexa for old people. But it has an feature on it. And Jared has that same feature where someone will come up and they'll be like all worked up over whatever the heck it is that's going on, and he'll, uh-huh, uh-huh, and then stop, let them kinda have their moment, and then later on, he'll circle back, and whether or not it even is worth a problem we're taking care of. But one of the things I think that it seems like you've learned, Jared, over time is the ability to weed out and not try to solve every problem that's laid at your doorstep in that moment. Part of that is the issues list that we've talked about on other episodes, creating the issues list, but also, like, I think you're very masterful about um, drilling down and getting to the real issue and not letting the surface stuff just consume you. Because I think that, before we get too far into this, I think it can be very consuming, right? And I think we'll talk about that a little bit. But yeah, I think that most people live at the level of events, emotions, and certainly reactions, right? But if we really want to become an elite leader, we need to operate at the level of patterns, systems, and then root causes, like we were talking, no pun intended. or maybe it was. But yeah, I think that this is going to be exciting, and I want to dive in. We're going to get into the 5 most dangerous pitfalls of ignoring the real issue. And we're gonna burn through these here in a second, and then we'll switch gears and get into, what are the 5 outcomes of addressing it. So, Jared, let's jump into this with number 1. I want to get your thoughts on this. So, number 1 being you treat symptoms instead of causes.
Yeah, you addressed this just a second ago when you said, a lot of people at the dentist live at the level of emotions, reactions, these emotional reactions versus patterns and systems, right? I think we all spend that time early on in our career because we probably lack a little bit of some leadership skills, meaning we want to please everybody. We want to be the problem solver. We want to be the one who knows how to take care of the issue. So we immediately react emotionally to this issue. And I often think I love my team and team members, but they tell you the side of the story that they want you to hear. I mean, there's a little bit of manipulation every time with it, whether they mean to or not, right? And so when you react emotionally to the surface level of what is being said, you're not digging down to the deep issue, which is why we're going to talk about the patterns today. Well, okay, here's a pattern of when somebody comes to you with an issue. Here's what to do, and here's a system of how to solve this and dive deeper into it. And I think that that'll be kind of key going into this because the first, like you said, the first dangerous pitfall is you're treating the symptoms. Right? You're treating this is the outcome of what the actual problem from the issue is instead of the actual issue. You're not treating the cause. So, some examples in real life examples in a dental practice, like we need more patients, right? Okay, well, my immediate reaction to treat the symptom is we need to spend more money on marketing to get more patients through the door, right? That's okay. That's an immediate. Oh, okay. This is an easy fix. This is right. Is that the actual issue, right? I mean, let's dive deeper into that. Is it actually more of a retention problem? There's all sorts of ways that things within your practice, but when you're treating your symptoms instead of the actual causes, that's probably the number one pitfall that dentists go into.
Well, I mean, they sell a buttload of Orajel because of
Right,
toothaches. How
right.
many times do we have a patient come in and they're like, "Oh, it's been bothering me for 2 weeks. I put some Orajel on it." I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right. Well," but I mean, we're built to be like, "Oh, well, it's just adjust the surface probably. Tooth hurts. I'm gonna put something on it," we as clinicians understand a deeper depth of that, and we need to be able to take that understanding and apply it to our business as well and really get past that superficial, symptom treating the symptoms all the time. I like that you brought up the example marketing and new patients. It's like, oh, I need to spend more money on marketing, more money on marketing. And we actually, now that we've transitioned out of network and are, a fee for service offices, both of our offices are fee for service. Um, we really did based on the leadership meeting that we had, we did a tough drill down and got to the core of, and really this idea of getting past the symptoms and getting down to the core issues was fundamental in reconstructing the way that we went about, okay, filling our schedule. So before we're like, oh, we need more. Our team kept saying, right, we need new patients. We need more new patients, right? They kept bringing that up to us. And we're like, okay, pump the brakes. Let's take a better look at what we got going on here. And from our drilling down, we've actually created an app now that is a scheduling app, and it has features for scheduling hygiene, it's unscheduled treatment that's existing within your system, and also finance, so collections, AR. And it's amazing what can be born from getting down to and trying to solve what the real problem is. I mean, we have this incredible new app, by the way. If anyone wants to check it out, let us know. We'll show it to you. It is amazing, and it's based on solving the root causes of filling the schedule. which sounds like, oh, well, you need more patience. The answer is always going to be you need more patience. No, no, it's not. That is not always the answer. So I love that example. That's fantastic. Case number two, you burn out solving the same problem repeatedly.
Yeah, it's the same issue, just a different version. Like I said before, it depends on which staff member which team member is telling you the problem or the issue. It's their version of what it is. So you often spend a lot of time solving their version of the issue, which isn't even actually the root cause of the issue. So this is such a frustrating aspect of being a practitioner or an owner. If you just stop, take some time, dive down deep into the issue and get the root cause of the issue, then you're not going to be solving the same issue over and over again because it just leads to frustration and burnout.
I mean, this is really what I was talking about with my son and the kid that he's serving with is that they they're locked in a cycle, right, of trying to solve the same problem repeatedly over and over and over again. It's a superficial issue, and it just leads them into conflict. And they get the same result every time, which is nothing, and that's what'll happen, right? Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you become so, and you just are worn out. You're exhausted that you just stop caring and you don't even want to resolve the problem anymore. You're just like, whatever. I've put this fire out so many times, let it burn. I don't even care, right? And there's no resolution because yeah, if you don't get down to the core issue, you're gonna just get locked in that cycle, locked in that loop.
And the problem though with that though is that leads us to our third one is you spend time solving the symptom of the issue rather than the issue, and sometimes you can get some temporary results. See, yes, you do pour money more into marketing, you get more patients coming through. Awesome. You have a great month. You have a false confidence in solving that issue. It's a temporary win, and that's the third pitfall I think is you put money, time, effort, emotion into solving this issue. It gives you a temporary result, this short-term spike, and then all of a sudden you have this huge crash and not sustainable because you didn't get down to the real issue. So that's one thing that is difficult for a dentist to see as well because it takes you have to see some patterns. You have to look at be consistent with all of your systems and be reviewing on a monthly basis to see the pattern and understand that this is a temporary spike. Now you're back to where you were before, but you're out $10,000 for marketing and now you got to start over again. So, these false wins, these temporary wins, those are difficult to deal with, but everybody has them.
Yeah, those are tough because you actually like if you delve into the psychology of that, they're really difficult because you literally get a dopamine spike from that.
Mhm.
Like you
Yep.
get this reward, right? Like as you're working through conflict resolution or problem solving or whatever, you get this that you're like, yeah, I feel good about me. Look how good I did to like help resolve this issue. But no, all you did was put out the fire for a second. You got the embers are still burning. It's gonna light right back up. It's like those party candles, birthday candles that don't go out. You blow it out for a second, it just starts right back up. And yeah, that dopamine hit gives you this. I like that you said that false confidence where you start to build maybe a little bit too much self-assurance that you have the ability to address stuff and I think we're all guilty of this is something
Yep.
that we've all dealt with before where we walk away from a situation really feeling good that we've on the spot solved it, but the reality is that we haven't created any type of structure or you know protocol or systems to really solve the issue. Maybe we didn't even know what the real issue was. So yeah, that's a tough one.
No, and I think this is a good point because, you may think you're down to the issue. You may drill down and get down, you're like, "Oh, this is the actual issue." You go to solve it, but that's why it's important to, at the end of the month or the end of the 2 months, whatever it is, be humble enough as a leader to be like, "Okay, this obviously wasn't the real issue because we still have the same problem or they still have the same issue. Where did we go wrong? and then go back and review it and dig down a little deeper into the issue. And I think that that's part of the learning process is becoming a leader of it's okay to make those mistakes, but you can't live off of those false highs. And you have to be able to recognize. And that's why it's a pitfall because you have to be able to recognize that it is a false high, it's a false confidence, a false win, and then go back and say, no, no, okay, this is actually what it means. This is actually where we're failing, or this is actually where the issue is. Let's try this other approach instead. And I think that's an okay process as long as you're willing to review it.
Oh, that's such good advice. Yeah, 100%. Number 4 out of 5. So this is where you misdiagnose people instead of systems.
Mm.
Uh, oh man, this is huge, right? How many times do we say that? She's not a good fit, or patients in this town, they don't value the work that we're doing, or
Or
associates just don't care.
we hear this one all the time. Um, your perio program is at 4%. Well, this population is just a healthy population, right? We
Yeah.
we hear that we use that, and that was one of our excuses initially. Oh, look at this.
That's why I'm laughing is because we're
Probably
guilty.
everybody's healthy, right? I mean, you're misdiagnosing the people, in this case, the patients, rather than the actual system.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have clear systems, it's gonna manifest in the people. I mean, that's where you're gonna see it is in the actual, day-to-day workings of what goes down, and then you're gonna be ticked off and irritated that, like, "Oh, well, so and so is not doing this, or they're just doing this," or what typically happens is they all kinda go their own way doing their own thing, and occasionally they'll clash into each other, and then you're like, "Well, these 2 just don't get along," they keep butting heads. Well, it's because 'cause they're trying to resolve the same issues, doing it their own way, and now you have people that are not rowing in the same direction. Maybe they're trying to accomplish the same thing, but they're rowing in different directions, and it just creates a form of chaos. And yeah, so then we get all like worked up over the people that we have, and I think that that's one of the things that, especially if you have a bigger office and you're having maybe some people, some employee issues. And the number one problem that we hear all the time, what was it? The dentist advisors that did the poll on this, or I can't remember who it was. It was somebody that did the poll where they asked what the number one issue in dentistry, like ownership was people, managing people and taking care of people. But if you don't have like clean, clear systems and protocols, you're gonna end up with chaos. Like, it is we talk about we always say it's akin to Lord of the Rings within Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Flies, a little different. Yeah, there's no elves in your office. Yeah, just chaos. Yeah, it really does turn into Lord of the Flies because there's just not the direction there.
Yeah, and this is an incredible tool to use. Like you said, with personal conflict resolution. So and so is driving me nuts. Right. Well, why? What is the issue? Why is she saying this? Why are they doing that? Right. Like, dig deeper. Is this a problem? Is this? I'm going to tell you, it probably is a leadership issue. You probably, as a
Yeah.
leader, have not defined clearly the expectations of everybody. Meaning, so and so never helps in sterilization. Ah, just she never does this. Okay, well, I obviously haven't set that clear expectation that she's not supposed to help in sterilization. That's something that you came up with on your own, and we have an issue. The actual issue is we don't have enough people to help with sterilization, or we don't have the right flow to help. Whatever the other issue is, this has now turned into a personal issue that now you want to say on the surface, oh, these two just don't get along. They don't mesh together. When in actuality, the responsibility falls upon you as the leader and as the owner to clearly define that.
Good stuff, man. Okay, number 5, you stall your growth ceiling. Yeah, yeah. This is a bomb drop, right? Like, and it was fun to talk about growth in all the outfitter courses that we've done. Inevitably, we'll end up talking about growth, and there's this misunderstanding. Speaking of, okay, to the real issue, there's often a misunderstanding of what growth means, and don't confuse growth with scaling. Like, those are 2 separate things. For some reason in dentistry, I think it's because of, the a lot of the business conversation and, the other podcasts that exists out there and whatnot. A lot of it is built around this idea of scaling. And, some coaches and consultants have built their system around scaling practices, which is if that's what you want to do, that's awesome. But don't confuse it with growth. Um, you know, growth, you could also look at it as advancement or learning or whatever you want to fill growth in with. But don't confuse scaling with growth because they're two very different things. And in this concept, we talk about you stall your growth ceiling. So not only yourself, your team, but your practice in general gets stalled out.
Yeah, scaling is just it's simply one form of growth. If you that's the way that you want to grow and so we're great, that's awesome. But you're right, as far as for some reason we have this fascination, we're fixated on scaling as growth, and that's all that it is. Whereas all sorts of internal growth, there's all sorts of you can become more efficient in lots of ways. That's a way of growing as well. There's all sorts of different ways to look at growth. But you're right. You stop growing in all of those ways if you don't know how to understand how to solve or resolve an issue, if you don't know how to dive in. Like this is all these are all bottlenecks for you for whatever form of growth you're looking for. Yeah. And so this is as we get into this, I think what you'll find once you understand how to solve issues, your capacity to grow in whatever way you want to, whether it's patient number, whether it's production, whether it is more alignment in your practice or personal growth or whatever sort, that's gonna your ceiling is gonna raise. Is you're gonna have a more of a capacity to grow in whatever capacity you want to once you understand how to resolve these issues. These always not knowing how to resolve issues is a bottleneck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we all have, every practice has barriers to growth. All of them do. Every single one does. And if what we're trying to do is to grow or expand or whatever it is we're trying to do to nail that, we have to be able to overcome. If you can't fix what you don't know, right? And so you can't outgrow unresolved restraints. If there's something holding you back and you can't figure out what it is, how you can overcome that, you're going to work around that all day long and just get frustrated. So yeah, again, get down to the core issue is what it boils down to, and you won't have that issue of being stalling out with your growth. All right, Joe, let's switch gears.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the five greatest outcomes to getting to the real issue. So what is the upswing on all this stuff, right? So I number 1 is clarity replaces chaos. Um, yeah, we basically you stop guessing. That's what it boils down to. I think that, once you have clarity, and, this is kind of fun. This is another thing we do with our outfit, of course, is to, find clarity in people's vision, in the owner doc's vision of, like, what do they want. That's sometimes, the real issue with the practice is they actually don't know, like, oh my gosh, what I used to have this idea of what I wanted, and then I got bogged down by all the minutia, and I've lost sight of what my vision was initially or what I even want anymore. I don't even really know anymore. This last weekend we had an awesome doc up from Utah, and he's a freaking baller. He produces. I mean, his practice is a rockin' practice, and he's got an incredible skill set. He's a gifted clinician, and he said, "I've kind of, I'll paraphrase what he said, but he more or less was like, I've kind of lost my vision, and I want to get refocused on what my vision is." He's just feeling the symptoms of not having that, and he was like, "Man, I need some clarity." And so, once you get down to the real issue, that clarity can replace that turmoil.
Yeah, once you it's like fixing a car. Once you know exactly what's broken, you know what part to order and to replace it. If you don't know, you're just guessing and throwing money at stuff and it could be this or it could be that, or just like when you're diagnosing the tooth and you finally get to the point where you're like, oh, okay, I can see now on the CBCT that there's a fracture in the root. I know exactly what to do now. That kind of information, that kind of clarity replaces the chaos. And just think about what the chaos does to you as an owner, to your energy, to your persona, to the energy of the team. The chaos builds and builds and builds, and it starts to suck your emotion and your energy throughout the day. So the better you can get at solving the actual issue, getting out of the issue, you're going to be replacing these chaotic moments of stress with clarity. When you have clarity, hey, you're eliminating noise. You're eliminating noise. Here's the decision. We're going to move faster. We're going to move more confident, and it's overall going to bring more peace to your practice.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, that you're making me think. Okay, I'm not gonna get off track because I could talk about that for a hot minute. But let's move on to number two, which is you solve problems permanently. And I immediately think about the Oragel versus a root canal. And I get it, a root canal is not permanent, but you get the idea. The concept is the same, and that's yeah, a patient can throw Oragel on their tooth or on their gums all day when they have irreversible pulpitis. But the reality is until they get down and get the root canal done that's not going to be solved, right? You're not going to solve their problem by rubbing topical on it. And and that's the difference is that we can solve problems. At least we can come up with protocols to better address what that issue is. How many times do you have a patient come in with the irreversible pulpitis? Well, if you don't have the ability to diagnose and understand that problem clearly, then you're going to get stuck in, well, first of all, you're going to have people that are mad. This is such a good example because it translates right over into business where you think, well, it's different. It's not. It's the same thing. If every time a patient came in with irreversible pulpitis, you misdiagnosed it and you just gave topical to it, which I mean, I get it. Nobody does that, but just imagine if there was someone that did that, what that would do to the practice. Well, how is that any different in the business principles? So with your employees and your people, if they keep coming to you with this problem and you keep misdiagnosing the problems, you're never going to permanently solve that. You're never going to create a system or a protocol that now you have to address that issue completely and comprehensively every time. And so you can see where that's how it gets locked in the loop. And by having the ability to cleanly and clearly diagnose what the real issue is, it solves these, and I use the term permanently loosely, but it gives you the ability to consistently address that same issue.
Yeah, when talking about the Oragel example, what's interesting is patients, when they first use it for the first time, it gives them relief, and they're like, "Oh, great, awesome." But then it comes back, and then they know that every time they use it after that, it's only to give temporary relief. Your team is no different. If you don't dive down to the issue and you throw a random solution at a problem, they understand this is okay, it's a temporary fix. We're gonna fix this for the moment, but this isn't really gonna solve the issue. They understand that it's gonna come roaring back as well. There's no trying to hide it or fix it. So, the whatever the problem is, you got to find the right solution to it. I think that solving the problems permanently is a good sign that you've actually dug deep enough into the issue and figured out what it really is, and then put the time and effort in to solve it. So, and then
Well, I think
uh,
oh, go ahead, Jared.
I would say that leads us to the third one too, which that your team then starts to trust you more, right? Like the
Right.
trust in the team. If they may not know that the issue is actually deeper than what it appears on the surface. But think about the power of your interaction or relationship with that team member when they come to you and you say you listen to them, right? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, you listen to them, right? And then but at the same time you're helping them understand that that's not the real issue. Like just like you did with Race on his mission, right? Like I hear you, and that's frustrating, that he's not listening. But let's dive deeper into this and let's see if we can and then the confidence or trust that they have in you as a leader and your capacity to lead the team as the business owner or as their boss increases, right? And then, you listen deeper, you're responding with this intention, and then you're solving the right problems.
Yeah. I think that the tricky part of of this is especially for me, I'm a highly emotional person, is not to react emotionally. And I'm not talking about with tears and laughter and, anger and all that stuff. But I that's kind of the underlying current that exists there is that a lot of times I go back to this, what we were talking about earlier about this dopamine hit. There are a lot of times that emotionally we want to put the fire out in the moment. We want to and we react, the emotion drives us. And again, getting into the psychology of this, listen, if you're a man, you're especially prone to this. We always say, oh, women are more emotional. Well, men typically are always trying to fix stuff, and so they immediately we're kind of wired that way. They've shown that over and over again. So, beware that's driven by emotion. We like to think that it's actually, this like, oh no, we're logically thinking through it. No, that's an emotionally driven thing that pushes you to put those fires out immediately rather than digging down and finding out like why did this fire start in the first place. So, but when you were able to do that and we're able to curb the emotion, again, I'm going to use you as an example of this, Jared. Um, when you're able to curb that emotion and give it a minute to stop, maybe like calm things down, maybe within yourself, maybe within, whatever's going on, that adds an additional level of clarity, and that allows you to better understand, what the real issue is. And when you can diagnose consistently, better diagnose what the real issue is, of course that's going to build trust. That's something, again, let's compare it to us clinically. If you are um, if you're good at diagnosing and you're consistently correctly diagnosing issues, that builds patient trust. Patients are going to trust you. Your colleagues are going to trust you. Think about when we have a freaking wild issue, and if you don't have an oral, either an oral pathologist or an oral surgeon that you can trust, that you can send people to that consistently can diagnose things correctly, man, you have so much confidence in that person. And the same is true for the way that we address the issues and find the problems within our staff, our office. If we blow it off or we incorrectly diagnose, it erodes trust. But if we do it effectively and consistently, the team starts to rely on the system and they really start to build confidence within the team that they exist in. So that's a huge one. Huge.
Yeah, and I think that that bleeds into the next one, number 4, which is you gain leverage, right? All of a sudden now you become the really good problem solver, or become the issue finder, whatever you want to call yourself. You start to gain leverage within the practice, and people know and understand that, hey, when I go to Dr. Hill and I've got an issue or problem, he's gonna dive deep into it. We're gonna figure out what it is. He's not just gonna go and fly off the handle and lose whatever. He's actually gonna do this. So these small changes that you're making are gonna have a major impact, and you're gonna gain leverage as a leader within the practice by doing it. It's gonna unlock everything.
Yeah, because you can actually say like you can have maybe a huge issue and they come out freaking out, and you have to be able to say, look, have we not addressed stuff like this in the past? Like, do we not know how to do this? Okay, then how is that any different than now? And you can leverage that experience and that success from previous situations of then again, you leverage that trust, or you ask them to rely on what they've experienced and to trust the systems, the protocols, the team, the decision making tree, and get down and say, okay, we're going to find the real issue here. We're going to find what's really happening. Also, I think that the employees start to really fall back on that, right, Jared? Like if you address things superficially, they will become accustomed to just addressing things superficially, like you said earlier. But if you set a precedence of, no, we're going to stop and find the real issue, the mindset will shift and change within everybody in the practice, and they will then make that their frontline approach to problem solving of like, stop, let's figure out what the real issue is here.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that has to be modeled. So we have to do that as leaders. We have to be the ones that model that and showcase that and set the example. So yeah, but yeah, I agree. This is what did you say? It unlocks a lot of the stuff that comes after that, because if you fix the constraint, yeah, man, that's like the key, right?
Yeah, and then this leads into number 5, which is the greatest outcome. of learning how to deal with issues and really solving issues is you actually make that transition from dentist operator into CEO leader of the practice. We talk about this identity shift a lot in EA, how we come out wired to be the dentist, and you often have to work in your practice as a dentist, or you get to whatever you want to say. You but if you're going to own a practice, you have a responsibility to then become the CEO, and you have to have this identity shift from I'm a dentist to I'm an owner of a dental practice. I work in my practice as a dentist as well, but it's almost this identity mind shifts. You go from the operator to leader, right? And what I love too is I love we use the word design a lot in EA. We help you design your life. We help you design your practice, right? You get rid of when you start to really solve these issues and start to understand how to do that. You get rid of becoming a reactor, a person who reacts, to actually a designer. I'm going to design the outcome of what I want rather than pause, pivot, react, energy spike, drop, fade, get frustrated, burnout. I'm going to get rid of that cycle and I'm going to go to, hey, here's how I'm going to design my practice and my interaction with my team. When this happens, this is how it's going to go. And you start to design your outcomes rather than you're just managing problems.
Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, um, I think I'm going to put you on the spot here. I want you to carry that train of thought and keep it going. And I want you to lay out, I gave you as an example earlier, and I think you really are a really good example of getting to the core issues and the core problems. So I want you to share your framework for how you go about getting to the real issue, or share a framework that you want to share, whatever you want to share. But I'm going to put you on the spot and have you talk through how you do it or how you would recommend doing it.
Yeah. So when there's an issue, and someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, this is the issue," right? You say, "Oh, so and so, they're going to come up all fired up, and if they have enough energy to come up and approach you or me at this point in time, then they're worked up usually." So the first step is say, "Okay, I'm going to listen to the surface issue. I'm going to listen to what you're saying, right? What is happening? Like, what is the outcome of whatever the underlying issue is? What is the outcome? That's the first step. What's actually happening? Okay, you listen
So,
to this.
so let them word vomit all over you.
Yeah, right. Just and they need to do that, which is totally fine for a time, right?
So engage feature here.
Yeah, engage in happy. They need to feel like they're being heard, and I get that, and you need to actually hear them. But yes, oh man, yeah. That's okay. That's interesting. Okay, but you have to know what's happening on the surface to be able to know what's happening underneath, right? So then you then your thought pattern should go to this. Okay, have I heard this before? Right? Is this the first time this is happening, or is this a repeat pattern? Right? Is so and so saying this? Is so and so saying this? Is so and so? Is there any sort of connection? Is there any sort of way that they're all interconnected? Right? And then you start to look for a pattern. Something. This is how you understand like what the actual issue is. Is there a pattern? Oh, hey, there a pattern. And then you say, okay, well, if there's a pattern between this, where in my protocol or where in my systems is it connected to? Is this connected to a financial system? Is it connected to something in the restorative department? Is it connected to a system in the hygiene? Is it a connected to system? Whatever system you have across your platform of your practice, your business, what system is this related to? You have to dig. This is digging deeper and deeper and deeper because you got to get to the underlying layer of it, right? And once you get to those three, then you're like, okay,
So correlate the surface problem to the whatever system or department or whatever it's now related to. So start to correlate the bits with. So this is assuming you already have a system in place.
yeah,
But okay, yeah, all right, I'm tracking.
that could be an issue too. It could be like if you don't have if you can't correlate it with a system, then that's maybe your issue. Is
Right.
man, I don't even have a system this should be connected to. We have then you have a major oversight, right?
Right.
You know, as we're going along this example, let's say, okay, so and so. I use the example sterilization because it's an easy one. Okay, so and
Yeah.
so isn't doing sterilization. That's a surface issue. Is where the what's happening is now we're having discord and we're having hard feelings and we're having people make up jobs for other people because uh because of this problem, right? Okay, that's the surface level. Okay, what's the pattern? Oh, the pattern is so and so is coming up and telling me that she isn't involved, and then so and so is coming telling me that she isn't involved, and so we have this pattern of going on. So what system is this related to? Oh, this is part of my sterilization system here. Like we have a system, we have an assignment, we have an accountability chart, we have a person who is over this, who's responsible for overseeing this. So the structure is there. Then the next step is, well, what belief is driving this, right? What is the psychology behind this? Why is this person then not understanding what the system or the structure is set to do? What is supposed to drive the responsibility of the people? What is that psychology? And then
Yeah,
and then
I think
Right.
just real quick, Jared, I think that's where you start to see where the employees will make up their own, like they'll come with these, like you talked about them making up jobs for other people or making up like responsibility. That's where they Brene Brown talks about the narrative that we build in our heads is, we tell ourselves a story, and if there's not something to fill in that space, then they'll fill it in themselves. They'll start to tell themselves, and there's a core belief that they have of like everyone should pitch in when there's a problem, and so they feel like they're bringing they feel like not everyone's helping when they should be. Well, that's an expectation that they're created in their mind based on their own beliefs and biases and perspective. And if it, like you said, if the system isn't written out, well, you immediately, are going to have the conflict right there. So I think that's really important, is to keep that in mind too. I love that. You guys know I like psychology, and I love the idea of like that to find out what belief or system, or excuse me, assumptions are driving that. And that's where a big problem is, don't you think, Jared? Is that there's a buttload of assumptions that get made at that level, right? That's really where you have to overcome. And now you're drilling down, because I think the first three things are like easy to kind of get to based on what you're saying. I think that those of us who've dealt with the height or the sterilization issue, which I swear is in every office, um, it's like, oh, well, don't we have a system? But then you inject the assumptions and the beliefs and the biases, and now you're starting to get to the real issues of what's going on. Yeah, this is good stuff. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's okay. And then really after that point, you can actually dig down deeper into actually what is the actual constraint that's limiting us, right? Like, why does this person believe this? Where are we failing below that, so that this person believes what they believe, right? So then you're actually getting down to like the fourth or fifth layer of what is the actual issue. And the actual issue may be, hey, as a leader, we actually haven't reviewed this in a year. Or maybe what we did is we hired someone 6 months ago and we actually never reviewed and set expectations for everybody together. As a leader, I'm failing in this aspect of, hey, this is on me. Let's get everyone together. Just let's review responsibilities and make sure that we're all on the same page. Whatever it is, now you're diving down into what is the actual, what constraint is actually limiting us as we're trying to solve the issue or the problem. And this might take several iterations. By the way, these are some easy steps, but and sometimes this is good to bring in front of the whole team. So oftentimes we think we can dive down to the issue by ourselves, but we don't have all of the information. Right? So the way that we do this in Wood River Dental in our practice is, if this is an issue, if it's related to the system or structure, then we throw it up into our team meeting for everybody to discuss. And we throw it up in a way that doesn't say so and so isn't doing this. We throw it up in a way that says, hey, we're getting backed up in sterilization. What are some things that we can do? Why is this happening? And how can we fix this? And so we have input now coming in from the hygienist. Oh, we do this and we bring it in here. When and then we have the assistants are bringing in. Oh, when we bring our stuff in this, oh, we just had a simple miscommunication of that. Where as a doctor, I never go in sterilization. I didn't know that. So here I am trying to solve the issue maybe by myself when I only have a portion of the information. So if it's and I would try to solve as many problems as you can at the team level without being accusatory, without pointing fingers, without saying so and so isn't doing this, so and so isn't doing that. And you can help your team learn how to do this. Hey, this sounds like an issue. Let's put up an issue. Well, I don't want to offend somebody. Okay, well, don't put a name to it. Don't say this is person's failing. I want you to tell me what the issue is. Why are we struggling with this? What is the actual issue? Then let's put it up and let's talk about it as a team, and then we can solve this together as a team. And that's been magic for Woodard Dental Care. And I will say it's hard. Like
It is hard.
it takes a lot of practice. People have tendencies and want to blame other people, and
Yeah.
they don't take responsibility, and they're going to take the path of least resistance, which is they're going to tell you the narrative that they want you to hear, which is going to exclude them from any of the responsibility. But the way as a leader, your job as a leader, CEO of the practice, is to teach them how to look at this as a problem, not as a personal issue, and then solve this as a team for the betterment of the practice. Right.
Yeah. And I think that you hit on something, that is huge, and that's when you're digging down and you're trying to get to the real issue, you have to shelf accusations. I mean, that how often, oh my gosh, it feels like every other issue is laced with an accusation, right? And it's like, no, we have to shelf the accusation. And we have, I think, some employees that get a little irritated when we'll say, okay, stop. This is a Jared phrase that we hear on Monday morning meetings often. Is Jared will be quiet, and then all of a sudden he'll be like, okay, stop. What's the real issue? And that's a phrase that's a Jared quote right there. Stop. What's the real issue? And I highly recommend you take that quote and you use it in your meetings, and when you're problem solving, and you actually put it on them, because they're coming in accusations. They're throwing all these accusations because they want it to be somebody else's problem, right? So, like you said, the accountability component of all this is fascinating because they want it to be, it's so and so's problem, not my problem. I just am witnessing the problem and it makes me mad. So, therefore, I'm going to come in and throw accusations because I've already decided what the problem is. The problem is Sarah. Sarah's the problem. And here's all the reasons. Here's the narrative I've built and all the evidence that I've accumulated because Sarah's the problem, right? This is the same thing that my son was doing with the kid he's serving with, right? And okay, enter the quote, right? Stop. What's the real issue here? What's the real problem? And let's shelf. Well, she does it. Stop. Nope. No. Not. Don't tell me what. Don't give me accusations. Tell me what the problem is. Well, sterilization is backing up. We're getting sterilization back. Okay, so the problem then is actually that sterilization is backing up. Well, why is it backing up? Because Sarah's not. Nope. Stop. Nope. Why? Is it a time problem? Is it a resource issue? Do we not have enough? Are people getting stretched too thin? Is it a problem with our system? Do we not have a system? And I freaking love the way that these things come about, because they'll come in so positive that Sarah is the problem. The problem is Sarah. And then when we drill down and we get down to it, it's like, no, the real issue is that we fail to make clear assignments when it came to who does what when within sterilization. And this is such a good real world example because we've all been there, right? But so often we will bandwagon. Watch out for that too, right, Jared? That's a whole different episode, but watch out for bandwagoning and politicking. Oh my gosh, because then it's like when somebody starts to make an accusation and they've created this that someone's a problem in their head, they want to be validated and they will start to recruit. And I get everyone listening to this right now is nodding their head going, yep, they've all seen it, where they start to go recruit people within the office to be on their side, to go and get their pitchforks and axes to go get Sarah, right? And it's like, okay, just stop. And if we as leaders don't recognize this, if we ignore it, and I think that's one of the things that you brought up that really resonated with me was taking this chance to stop and listen. We can't just blow off. I mean, it's hard. Sometimes this stuff is pretty superficial, but we can't just blow off. We do need to be able to accurately assess, okay, is this a real problem? Like, is this something that's going on? And I think that sometimes it is if it's repeating, then we haven't solved anything. And so, yeah, there's so much good stuff to talk about with this. And I think that it's something that resonates with all of us. We feel it. But at the end of the day, man, the problem that you're frustrated with, the problem that someone's frustrated with is almost never the real problem, right?
Mm, yeah, 100%. Almost ever. I would say never. There's always, almost always, an underlying issue, something that, and we spend so many times with what we think is a solution. And so, if this resonates with you, and you want to learn more, because like I said, this is just a podcast about this. We actually go through, and we love to teach people how to do this and how to incorporate this into their meetings and work on this skill and all of the leadership skills, and then reach out to us. Like, we love to go into this. Obviously, we're very passionate about it. We've got, tons of real world experience with this, and we've made mistakes along the way. But this is an awesome topic, and hopefully you got something out of this. And if you want to learn more, then reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk you through more of this.
Yeah, we've had shout out to those who reached out to us this last week. We had a few of you reach out, just some inquiries of just, wanted to chat, wanted to talk about some stuff, wanted to look at the software. Yeah, listen, we're an open book. There's no strings attached to anything. We're just here to help. So we love to help other docs out. We love to help other offices out. We're in the trenches like you guys are. Just keep that in mind. Like, we feel your pain, the pain you guys feel, we feel it every freaking day. And, but we also feel the reward, and we know why you guys are doing this. So, just know you're not alone. We're happy to welcome you into the tribe in any capacity that you want to come into it. And yeah, come join us and see what some of this is about. If you just want to put some fires out within your own office, and you think that maybe someone within our community can help, let's do it. Let's work together and see if we can't uh you know help our practices be a little better place to live each day. So yeah. Well, Jared, I think this was really profound, probably overdue. I think we probably should have talked about this a while ago, but I think that this is something that's going to resonate with anyone listening to this. And dude, this is good stuff, man. I appreciate your expertise on this and sharing what you had. And hopefully you guys have a moment to check out Dental Legacy Foundation. We didn't really talk about that at all, but we have to plug that. And of course, elevationassociation.com. Check us out there. We're also on school, so come see what we're all about. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.
Guys, talk to you later.